What is going on, everybody? Welcome to our Sixers versus Heat Game 1 preview. I'm with my man, Mike Small. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at Real Mike Small. He is the host of the Killing Me Smalls podcast. If you ain't listening to that, you're doing it wrong. What's going on, Mike?
You are doing it wrong if you're not listening to that. And if you're not watching you on Suit Up Geeks and all the other 37 podcasts that you do, you're doing it wrong as well.
I appreciate that, brother.
I'm living the dream, man. You know what? I'm a zagger, right? We've talked about this. When everyone thinks the Sixers are going to roll, they don't. When everyone thinks they're going to get their ass kicked, they win. You know what? I tweeted out 5 minutes after the Embiid injury was announced. I said, we're splitting in Miami. Embiid will be back by game 3. Harden is going to be retro James Harden, and it's Maxey time. I'm feeling it, man. I think nobody's giving him a chance. You saw that yesterday when they polled, 30 sports writers or reporters, and everyone said Heat in 5, 6, or one person put 7. Tim Legler killing us. Stephen A. Smith pronouncing him dead. I'm in. I think the Sixers split the first 2 games, and if Embiid can come back, with some sort of new phantom mask, and he's somewhat effective, you got a shot. I like the matchups, man. I always have. I just feel like, I'm getting ahead of you, so if you want to shut me up, you can. But I just feel like they can hunt Tyler Hero. They can hunt Duncan Robinson. Who's the other one?
They have a lot of shooters.
There's another guy they can hunt. There were 3 guys off the top of my head. I don't have it in front of me. But I just think that what they did in that last game when they played without Harden and Embiid and all they did was hunt matchups, I think that's a precursor of what they can do. Now, can they stop the Heat?
Right.
When I think they'll probably go to some zone to see what they can do to neutralize Bam Adebayo. So what you're doing is you're letting, Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero jack some threes. And listen, I'll take my chances in one of the 2 games, them not hitting. And that's kind of what we're doing.
That's got to be it. Like the Miami Heat were the best 3-point shooting team during the regular season here. They didn't really do it well in the playoffs here. They took the 14th most 3-point attempts during the season as well. You've got Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Max Strus, Kyle Lowry's not playing. Gabe Vincent is an intriguing player that we have to talk about. Those are all guys that can let it rip and hurt you from the perimeter. But the good news is, they can shoot themselves out of a game as well. It's not their offense that Sixers fans should be truly worried about. Where Miami is strongest is their defense. And, man, it is elite. Even better than the Raptors. So James Harden literally called the Raptors series one of the hardest series he's ever been in because of Toronto's ability to switch, rotate, and just swarm and put Harden in a blender. You're going to see that here again in this series. And I think, should we just start talking about James Harden and his impact in this series?
All right, so can I piss you off for a minute? Because I know this is going to piss you off, but it's one of my favorite things to do. We were going into this game tonight with C.J. McCollum and Anthony Simons instead of James Harden. Or if we were going into this game tonight with Fox and Barnes or Halliburton and Barnes.
Jesus.
What were some of the other ones? Would you feel any different?
No, absolutely not. I know James Harden had his strengths. Sorry, his weaknesses there in round 1, but I was really impressed with his ability to get good looks for the Sixers shooters on a consistent basis. When the Sixers were losing, the shots were all there. They just weren't hitting them. They were really poor with their wide open shots. I'm not worried about James Harden is James Harden. The Sixers did not trade for 2018 James Harden. They traded for 2022 James Harden. And I think he's not been perfect, but his skill set is going to be tested yet again. You saw what this Miami Heat team did to James Harden, or did to Trae Young. I mean, in round one, man, they were able to just trap him again and again. And this Miami Heat team plays team defense. They will switch you to death, and they make you take tough shots. They will make you beat them with their three. That is something we saw again and again with Trae Young, and the shots obviously didn't fall. And the Hawks just simply did not have the personnel to overcome just that amazing defense, that swarming defense the Heat did on Trae Young. We've got Pedro in the house. Hey, guys, good vibrations to our Sixers from Brazil. Let's freaking go. Sixers in 6. I love it. We're going to get to our predictions in a little bit. We'll save that to the end. But you talk about James Harden, man. This guy is going to have to generate open looks for Tobias Harris, create opportunities for Tyrese Maxey to attack Miami's like constantly shifting defense. No Embiid. You're going to need Harden to score and score big, at least in one of these games. So obviously he's going to have a bigger role on the offensive end. You have that inevitable drop-off without Embiid down in the perimeter defensively. So Harden's going to face this team, this Miami Heat team that is physical and just likes to switch everything and isn't afraid to just throw every little thing, every little defensive scheme at James Harden. And you bet your ass they're going to double down on that and make James Harden beat them. So I think
blitz the hell out of them.
Yeah, they're gonna double down on James Harden, make everyone else beat them. From Danny Green to Tobias Harris to Tyrese Maxey, we can go on and on. But this is gonna be a tough series. If James Harden thought that Raptors series was the hardest yet, this is it. At least for the first couple of games. Any other thoughts on James Harden before I think we should talk about Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, one more thing about Harden is you made the comment he hasn't been perfect, but in a lot of ways he's been the perfect complement for Embiid in the way that, I think there was a small part of him that, there were times during the season that he was focused more on getting Embiid the MVP than he was, winning the games, or not sure that he wasn't trying to win, but that was a big focus for him, in my opinion. But what he has done is he's played the second fiddle role incredibly well. Mm-hmm. He's been the distributing point guard that the Sixers have lacked, even with Simmons. Simmons was good, but he wasn't great at it. He had a lot of assists, but it's not like he was, putting people in better positions. I don't want to hear that damn stat again about him setting up the most three-pointers. That drove me crazy. But he's been perfect to play with Embiid. Now the question is it because he's adjusted to playing with Embiid and that he's been playing the way he's played and he's still got that gear in him that he can go be not 2018 James Harden, but maybe 2021 Brooklyn Nets James Harden a little bit? If he's got that a little bit, then we got a shot. I mean, I'm thinking that the fact that, look, all I can see when you say James Harden, the only thing on my mind is that dunk last week. That's it. I think there's some juice in there, and I think you're going to see something tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. Like, James Harden has a narrative about him in the playoffs, and I think this is his perfect opportunity to squash that narrative. I think what makes the Heat defense so good is their ability to just take away pick and roll ball handlers. They're literally the best team in the NBA at doing it at 12.5 points per game from pick and roll ball handlers during the regular season. You look at the second best team at that was the Toronto Raptors in the NBA. So it doesn't get any easier. And I think a guy that is just such a huge component to that is Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo, man, he does such a good job at switching and rotating on defense. You look at the Miami Heat and their ability to just completely take out opposing offenses and force pick and roll ball handlers, just give up the ball or move it into isolation. And you look at when the Sixers offense is at its worst is when they're playing too much hero ball. When James Harden is playing too much ISO ball, they're not rolling with the pick and roll. It becomes stale. No one's moving. No one's cutting to the basket. That's when the Sixers offense is at its worst. And that's a little bit of my fear here is that they're going to let James Harden or force James Harden to beat them from the perimeter settle for way too many three-pointers. That is like my concern. That is the biggest concern. Is we need James Harden to have a game here, have an efficient game where he's limiting turnovers. We can talk about that soon about how Miami's offense clicks, which is generating turnovers. But for me, you got to know that like James Harden has to get the ball out quick because they're going to be swarming him.
I kind of think you're going to see a lot more Shake Milton in this series. And the reason that I say that is because I think that having another ball handler on the court for just what you talked about, so it's not just Harden having to play hero ball, but the fact that they can move the ball back and forth around the perimeter. And it's not going to be as much of an inside-out game, but it's got to be popping around the perimeter. And I think having another ball handler, somebody else that can be a threat from outside, I could see some Maxey, Harden, and Milton lineups for that reason. Maybe, you can't do that too much with Danny Green and Niang or anything like that because that would be a bit of a defensive nightmare. But I do think that they're going to have to come up with some actions where the guards are going to have, so it's not all on Harden to just move the ball, dribble it down to 5 seconds and take a step back. They're going to have to move the ball around the perimeter. And I think having an extra ball handler out there and an extra pass, Shake's not a great passer, but he's a decent ball handler. And at times can be a decent shooter. He's been a good shooter last couple weeks of the season and into the playoffs. I have a little bit more confidence in him, especially in the corner three. I see that being one strategy.
I think it's got to be Tyrese. I think the one thing
that's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean it's.
I'm trying to cut you off. I'm sorry to cut you off, but Tyrese has got to be in the mid to upper 20s every game for them to have a shot. He's got to take at least 8 threes a game. At least.
You look at, I think he had 12 attempts in Game 6 there.
Yeah.
You look at the one thing the Sixers could expose is Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson. Switch those guys, get Maxey on those guys, and penetrate. Maybe get Maxey a lot of attempts at the free throw line. Force this Miami Heat defense, which loves to pack the paint and then find our shooters open for three. And that brings me to my.
Sorry, one more. I'm cutting you off again. I hate doing that. That's why I'm thinking Shake Milton. You remember what Shake Milton did to Hero in that last regular season game they played against each other? He was constantly attacking Hero. And then it was Maxey and the two of them. And they found that matchup every time. So that's why I'm thinking you've got to have him playing some more.
Yeah, this is the same kind of scenario as that Raptors game when we did our previous preview shows where sometimes the best defense is the best offense. And I think Doc's got to really put his pedal to the metal here and exploit those mismatches. If Maxey's not dominating Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and like getting into the paint at ease, we could have a bit of a problem. That leads to my X factor of this game. And that is Mr. Danny Green. We could talk about Maxey and James Harden. Of course, those guys need to have great games, efficient games in this one. But this is also, you look at that Hawks series, Miami versus Atlanta, the Hawks just didn't have the role players to match up with the rest of the Miami Heat. Here, our role players have to step the frick up, and that is Danny Green. And the Heat love to pack the paint and let you beat them with threes and vice versa, to be honest. I think Danny Green needs to have a huge game in this one. Danny Green leads the NBA in corner threes in the playoffs, shooting 40+%. I think if Danny Green hits 3 or 4 threes, the Sixers have a shot. 3 or 4 of those threes. I don't want to see any more air balls. Let's take away the air balls. But I think our main guys like Danny Green, when those shots are available and they're there, wide open shots, they got to be taking those. And Danny Green, I think, is going to be my X factor guy that I'm hoping for like 14 to 15 points and doing Danny Green things. What about you?
I love that call. What's interesting is when I think back about our first pregame show before game 1 of the Raptors series, we talked a lot about the way the Raptors play defense. And one of the things, you have to give up things to get things, right? And one of the things that they gave up were the corner threes because they put so much emphasis on forcing everything into the middle. The Heat, the one thing that they're going to give up is they're going to leave Tyler Hero and they're going to leave Duncan Robinson out there on islands, and the Sixers have got to exploit that. So for me, I'm going Shake Milton as my X factor. I know that's a reach. The dude played like 6 minutes a game last series, but I just have a feeling that based on the way he played against them in the regular season and what they need now to complement the team, I'm going Shake Milton as an X factor. And I have to say, we've been on here for what, 17, 18 minutes right now? We have not mentioned Paul Reed, DeAndre Jordan, or Paul Millsap once.
We're going there.
Nice, to be honest. But
all right, yeah, let's
going there.
Let's do it. All right, so obviously no Joel Embiid until at least game 3.
Yep.
What is your strategy here if you're the Sixers? I'll let you start. I have mine.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen, and then I'll tell you what I would do, if that's okay.
If you say it, I'm going to get very upset.
Okay. What I think they're going to do is start Paul Millsap and bring B-ball Paul off the bench. You can't play DeAndre Jordan in this series. He's unplayable.
Thank you.
That's what I think they're going to do. I think that Doc likes doing that thing where he has his backup center continue in their role, so he's not weakening one to strengthen the other, and then he weakens two. So I think I could see Paul Millsap getting the first shot. I actually might even do that if it were me, or I would, let Niang or Danny Green or something start. Not Danny Green, Tobias Harris. How about Tobias Harris banging Bam Adebayo and playing some 5? What do you think about that?
Let's do it. I mean, Tobias Harris, we saw it against Pascal Siakam in round 1. Tobias is fine when he's defending bigger guys. That's when he actually can hold his own. Like he can square up against some of those guys in the paint. Where he gets in trouble is when he's out on the perimeter and he gets put out, and that's the problem.
Well, Brett Brown put him at the 3. It was a disaster without Horford here. He's back at the 4. You're right, and he's and I thought it was a will thing more than a skill thing, and the will is definitely there now.
Yeah, that's credit to Doc. He definitely got Tobias into that right role, and he has thrived, and he had a terrific round 1. But I think Paul Reed's going to get a lot of minutes. But the interesting question I think here is George Niang heading into this second series and those small ball minutes. I definitely see us doing a lot of small ball. You talk about how you need shooters on the court. Why not George Niang? Why not George Niang getting a little more minutes tonight? He's so good at catch and shoot threes. That's his MO. Any thoughts on George Niang getting a little better? Because you look at him shooting in the first round, he shot 66.7% from 3. Here are his numbers with Harden and Maxey. Not a lot of minutes, but he was a plus minus of 0.3 and a net rating of negative 0.9. Not great, but obviously this is a totally different series. He's not going up Pascal Siakam and Chris Boucher and everyone else that has amazing length on that Toronto Raptors squad. But here, George Niang, you could maybe hide him a little bit, and you have a guy, an extra shooter, that keep the paint open just a little bit for Maxey and Harden.
Let me ask you this. Yes, I would try it for sure. For sure. Who's he guarding? Who are you putting him on? Who are you going to say, okay, George, you get – it ain't Bam. You can't have him guard Bam. You sure as hell can't have him guard Butler. Lowry's out. He's not guarding Hero. He's not guarding maybe Robinson because he's got some length. Maybe. Definitely not Oladipo, who we haven't talked about. That's my fear because he did get exploited defensively, and he was a matchup problem for the Sixers when they played Toronto.
Yeah, that's something you always have to be worried about. Pick your poison, I guess.
Well, that's what they're going to have to do. That's what they are going to have to do. But you have to try it. You have to see what he's got in him. And let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Who's a better coach, Nick Nurse or Eric Spoelstra? Now I know it's a loaded question because Spoelstra's got a couple of championships and he's been doing it longer. Nurse is a little bit of the recency bias boy genius. Who scares you more from an X's and O perspective?
After playing a playoff series against Nick Nurse, it is definitely Eric Spoelstra. Nick Nurse is just a whiny baby. That's really all he is now to me. I had so much more. Like, I came into this series, and I picked the Sixers to lose in round one because of my respect for Nick Nurse. And all you saw was him just whining and crying, and every single thing he tried, it seemed to backfire. And only until Fred VanVleet's injury did he actually utilize the strength of this Toronto Raptors team. That's on him, man. He cost his team way more than he helped his team, I thought. I'll go Eric Spoelstra.
Okay. I mean,
Siakam shooting pull-up jumpers like way more than he should have. That game plan was atrocious.
The Sixers did beat Eric Spoelstra in a playoff series with in Ben Simmons' rookie year.
Yeah.
And the Phantom of the Process mask, ironically, with Embiid. But that was the ghost of Dwayne Wade on that team, and they were a little bit different than they are now. That's for sure. What are you expecting from Jimmy Butler?
He's going to come out, man.
He loves to play hard against the Sixers.
He's going to come out and play his ass off. That's what I expect. It's a personal thing. I'm not a big Jimmy Butler fan, but you know that he's a gamer. No one can deny that. Jimmy Butler is a gamer. He's a star. But I don't think he's – I don't know how to answer that question, to be honest. I think he's going to have a good series, but he's not my biggest concern about this series at all. For me, it is Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson flying off those screens, all those handoffs, and just lighting up the Sixers from three. And that's why I think another wild card, or I guess X factor in this series, is Matisse Thybulle. The dude was unplayable in that one game, 100%. But Matisse's ability to fight through screens, fight over those screens, and contest three-point shots, the Sixers need that. The Sixers need that in this series because Robinson and Hero are going to be pumping it from three. You look at kind of the Sixers' size. I think Harden can body James Harden a little bit. For me, it's Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, especially lighting it up from three.
I'm less concerned about that. I'm more concerned about Butler and Bam. And I do think, Butler's crafty enough to put Thybulle in foul trouble. I don't know if Harden has the energy to guard Butler while still running the team. And we don't have an answer for Bam Adebayo at the moment, unless you're going to think Tobias Harris can do that. So I think they're just going to have to they're just going to have to try shit. I mean, you just got to see, okay, that didn't work. Let's do something else. Doc can't do one of these things where he leaves Danny Green on Trae Young for, 3 quarters and then says, okay, we're down 26. Let's try it. So he's going to have to make some in-game adjustments quickly. Absolutely.
Darth Pooh says Paul Reed will be in foul trouble running out of the tunnel. And No Limit Deuce says, I'm not sold on Miami. I'm not either. They're definitely beatable. There's no question they're beatable. But it's so hard to make predictions on this series. I learned my lesson in round one. I had the Raptors in 6. The Sixers came out the gate like crazy, like I never expected, 3-0. And then we saw more of that Raptors basketball that I expected in games 4 and 5. And of course, probably like the most unexpected thing ever happened, and the Sixers just routed them in Toronto. It was one of the most unpredictable series in my life. That went the exact opposite that I saw. Pedro says PJ Tucker's balling this offseason. That is my matchup to watch. Of course, the matchup to watch in this series 100% is James Harden versus Jimmy Butler and PJ Tucker, right? Like, you look at those two meshed up on Harden, they're going to spend a ton of time guarding him. Those two, Jimmy Butler versus James Harden, going to go 1 for 1, like possession by possession. That's going to be a ton of fun to watch. And PJ Tucker is a big part of that. His ability to switch, guard multiple spots. And you got to think that, like, if the Sixers slow down the pace here, that's probably to the advantage of guys like PJ Tucker and a good chunk of this Miami Heat squad. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, PJ Tucker, sometimes he get hot from three. It's more of his defense that you're concerned about. When Embiid's playing and, you worry about, just having an extra big body that can push him out of the paint. And PJ Tucker has that. I'm really interested to see how they approach Harden. I could see Jimmy Butler just saying he's mine. And that could be a problem if I'm Spoelstra, the way to play the Sixers, if I'm them, I'm taking Harden. I'm taking Butler and Tucker, and I'm blitzing Harden as soon as he crosses half court. Makes him give it up. And then the problem is who's going to guard Maxey, because if that's the case, then I'm having Maxey attack. Who's going to be able to guard him? So that's where you've got to figure out where the matchups are. And if it's Tyler Hero, if it's, Duncan Robinson, whoever they're guarding, they've got to go to the basket. And that's got to be the strategy, I would assume.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if Jimmy Butler's shooting 43.8% from three in this series in round two, like he did in round one, that's a major problem.
Yeah.
If Jimmy Butler's hitting from three, that's a big time problem. Darth Pooh says Miami has nothing to prove. This will be their downfall. I love that. Speaking of to prove, like you look at Doc and how much has been a roller coaster year for Doc Rivers this year. That roller coaster, that round one, like where he just looked terrific for the first three games. Nick Nurse got him a little bit, and then Doc got the job done. Now he has a chance to take down Eric Spoelstra without Embiid in a full series. Doc Rivers could rewrite his own narrative here over the last several months. That's an interesting storyline.
Absolutely.
No Limit Dude says keys to win the series contain Jimmy and the shooters Thibault and Reed stay out of foul trouble. I love it. And Darth Bruce says Jimmy can draw a foul from a kid in a wheelchair. Okay. All right. Let's what's your predictions, man? I want game one predictions and series predictions, man.
All right. So if the Sixers did not beat the Heat without Embiid and Harden a few weeks ago, I would say they're definitely winning the game. And the reason I say that is because I'm sure Eric Spoelstra has been preaching, look, they can beat you without Embiid. They did it last time. You got to take this seriously. But I do like zagging when everybody else is zigging. So the rest of the world is picking the Heat. I'm going to pick the Sixers tonight and to split it. And I'm going to pick the Sixers to win in 7 if Embiid comes back and plays in game 3. If he can't play till game 4, they're not going to win the series.
I like Sixers win tonight. I like it a lot. I think this is one of those games where the Sixers can kind of shock the national media here and just punch Miami in the face. I think that probably means
against the world, right?
I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
And the way Tobias Harris has been playing lately, that gives me confidence. You look at Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero against the Sixers this season. They're shooting under 30% from three. This is a Miami Heat team that's beatable. This is a team that's switchable, that you can definitely expose some mismatches here. I think the Sixers win tonight. They'll probably get blown out on Wednesday night. But it's a brand new series with Embiid playing in game 3. So that's my gut feeling. And I think 100% the player of the game will be Tyrese Maxey. I think it's going to be another Tyrese Maxey game where he gets like 30-plus points, but high efficiency, limit those turnovers. That's what you got to do against it. I mean, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, this entire team, the role players have to limit turnovers. If they can limit turnovers, those unforced errors, I think are going to be in this game. I really, really do. Because that's what Miami wants to do. They want you to force turnovers, just like Toronto. Force turnovers, get in transition. Their transition offense is absolutely nasty. So that if they can stay away from that, like they did in games 1, 2, and 3 against Toronto, they have a chance. They have a chance. And I think Maxey getting those mismatches and Doc finding those mismatches for Tyrese Maxey is going to be a huge storyline in this game. No one on that Miami Heat team can keep up with Maxey, man. He's just writing his story in the NBA right now. What a terrific round one for Tyrese Maxey. He's shooting everything. I think it is Maxey game one, 30 plus. I'll say 6 assists, 1 or 2 turnovers. Maxey is the player of the game. Who's your player of the game?
I'm not going to dispute that, and I'm not calling player of the game, but I'm calling Shake Milton with 18 points. And 18 points for Shake Milton tonight. I'm going to set the over-under at 15, and I'm going over with 18 because I think they'll focus so much on Maxey and Harden, and Shake Milton's just going to attack the basket and get in his mid-range and hopefully hit a couple of threes and be a little bit of that, 2019 on the road at the LA Clippers, Shake Milton, where Doc just says, just go get me some damn points.
I love that. And you look at games 1, 2, 3 against Toronto, I thought Harden was pretty good. I thought he was damn good, but he was only averaging 18 points a game. What he was doing is he was penetrating and getting the ball out fast to our shooters in rhythm, wide open shots from the perimeter. That's what we need from Harden tonight. I need Harden to limit the turnovers. I need Harden to keep finding our shooters in good spots, and we'll see. We will.
Harden's not had a game as a Sixer where he's taken more than 20 shots. He'll do that tonight.
And let's be honest, the entire time with the Sixers, James Harden's been feeding Embiid. He's been feeding Embiid on that MVP run. Tonight is the night where he can kind of say, I'm the captain now. And we'll see. We will see. Pedro says, heard the nightclubs in Miami are good. Harden's going to crush Butler tonight. Maybe that's why. I'm going to throw that in there with my prediction as well, because the Sixers are going to get a game one W here. And then Harden's going to go all out at the clubs tonight and tomorrow night. And then
they lose by 30 on Wednesday.
There it is.
Hopefully they flew in today. I know they didn't. But.
Exactly. Darth Booth says, Maxey always looks like a kid who lost his lunch money on court. Darth Booth says, get that shake parlay now. Question, should I take the Heat -4 in the first half? I did not look at those numbers. I don't know how.
No, the Sixers if they don't win the game, they're going to lose it at the end. But the Sixers will get off to a good start tonight.
I love it, man.
By 12, they're not winning in the second half. I think they get off to a good start tonight.
Who has more pressure in this game? Is it the Heat or is it the Sixers?
Sixers have no pressure in this game tonight.
That's where I'm at too, man.
1-2, and if they don't get it tonight, they come back and win on Wednesday.
Todd Cruz says, no way. I think the pressure's on Miami to come out strong. And I think if the Sixers can kind of, with James Harden like they did in that, game 3, weather the storm in Toronto like he did, just play efficient, man. I'm not looking for – I don't think Harden needs to score 30, 40 plus in this game. I think if you can get 20, 25, 12 to 15 assists and limit turnovers, it's all gravy, baby. It's all gravy.
Look, if the Sixers shoot 38% on high-volume three-pointers, they win the game tonight.
Oh, they're going to be shooting threes tonight. That's
high-volume and 50% or over, they win the game.
That's really what it is. It's series is, I think, a little easier to kind of predict. Miami's going to force you to beat them with threes, and Miami's going to shoot. That's whoever shoots the best. But I think we need to kind of get this Miami Heat team defensively, get Maxey going, get Harden going, get into the paint, and we'll see, expose some mismatches there. So, where do we go from here? Should we just end the show? Any other final thoughts?
Let's go get ready. I gotta go make myself an old fashioned. Get ready for the game tonight, man. Let's go.
I'm drinking some.
Enough of us. Let's watch the damn game.
I know. We are 24 minutes from tip-off here. Guys, we'll be doing a post-game show right when the clock hits 0, guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. One Time says, thank you, guys. Thank you for watching. Again, post-game show right when the clock hits 0. We've got Rob, we've got Tiago, and who knows who else will show up. Maybe Mike. I don't know.
Depends how many old fashions I drink. You don't want me on 3.
Guys, it's going to be crazy because Miami Heat fans are – you thought Toronto Raptor fans were insufferable. Miami Heat fans take that up 10 notches. And it's going to get ugly out there, especially on Twitter and everywhere. on social media. So
we got a couple of Miami Heat fans watching today. I just want to tell you one thing. LeBron James ain't walking through that door tonight. Let's go.
Let's go. My man Mike, follow him on Twitter at Real Mike Small. Check out the Killer V Smalls podcast anywhere you find your podcasts, or here at the Painted Lines YouTube channel. Check us out at thepaintedlines.com. Be sure to smash that subscribe button. Let's go, Sixers, baby. We'll see you in a few hours. Stay awesome, everyone.